I'm so delighted to have you, and super special because you are our first non-professional harpist guest.
Thank you. I remember myself looking out the window going, when is the harp going to get here? And then I remember seeing a truck coming and someone pull out a big bag from the back. I'm like, this is it, this is it, this is the harp. It's a fun little activity that I do every so often.
I don't think you're the only one. We get a lot of comments from people saying,
right?
And they'll make their own arrangement just by, like I talk about a Frankenstein arrangement, right? So a little bit from the beginner, a bit from the intermediate. Oh, I really like that harmonic in the advanced. I'll put that in.
That is so fun.
Yeah, it's great. It's great. It's really, really lovely.
If you want to do it, you can do it. You just need to take baby steps. So just get going.
Amazing. Welcome to the How to Harp podcast, where your harp and your journey are always front and centre. I'm Heather Downie, harpist and founder of How to Harp, your online space for expert guidance and endless inspiration. Each week, we are here to empower, inspire and encourage you, whether you're just beginning or many years into your harp adventure. From chats with world-class professionals to real stories from everyday harpists to practical tips you can use right away. This podcast is all about helping you feel happy, confident and fulfilled with your harp. This is episode 3 of the How to Harp podcast, and I'm so excited because today we are starting a brand new regular feature, Conversations with Learner Harpists. Each month, I'll be sitting down with someone who's on their own harp journey, and our very first chat here today, I'm joined by Victoria Johnson. In this episode, we talk about how she first discovered the harp, her experiences in taking part in music competitions, and why finding a sense of community with other harpists has become such an important part of her journey. Victoria also shares what she's learned so far, the joys, the challenges, and the things that keep her inspired to keep going. Hello, Victoria. How are you doing? Welcome to the How to Harp podcast.
I'm doing well. Thank you so much for having me.
I'm so delighted to have you, and super special because you are our first non-professional harpist guest.
Thank you.
Yeah, we're excited to have this. It was a really lovely request that came from one of the How to Harp members that she was like, oh, I'd really love to hear from other harpists who are not doing it as their main profession. Because, you know, it's more relatable that way, isn't it?
It is. And I mean, speaking from my personal experience, interviewing professional harpists in Talking Harps, I think there's something to be said about connecting with people who are more at my level, if you will. So I can relate to why this member wants to hear from non-professional harpists.
Of course. But I think we should start in the same place we start with all of our harpists who we interview, and that is where it all began. So please tell us, how did you get into the harp? What sparked your interest?
So I started learning piano as a little kid, and much like any good Chinese parents, they want you to commit to a music instrument, and piano was the obvious choice back then. And I spent 7 years doing piano studies, and as much as I love music, I didn't actually enjoy the experience. And I think a lot of that was the expectations that they have on their children. A lot of us got signed up for exams. You probably know that there's this whole exam board situation happening out there that a lot of young kids end up getting into because their parents want them to do the exams. So I studied up to, I think it was grade 7 piano. And basically I quit as soon as I had the opportunity because I did not enjoy having to show up for exams and only practice exam pieces. And obviously I was not old enough to realize that, like, hey, I could have a say in this experience. So I just kind of go along with what my parents gave me. And when I become a parent myself, I very much recognize the advantage of learning music, but I want a different experience for my kids. I don't want them to resent their instrument like I did, because I basically, after I quit piano, I never really got back into it because I just didn't want to go back into it after 7 years of, being forced to do something. So I said, how can I make this different for my kids? And along sort of that thinking process, I said, well, number one, I really don't want a piano, only because I have PTSD with piano. So let's not go there. So I thought, okay, like what other instrument out there that, it's familiar enough for me to still be able to help my kids, because I understand they're going to need some help, but different enough from a piano that I don't have to see a piano again in my life, in my house anyway. So I took my daughter to a harp teacher's music recital. She also teach piano, and there are students with siblings that play out the instrument. And she said, why don't you bring your daughter here, check out the music and the instrument, and see if she likes it. So I think there were 3 different instruments in there. And at the end, the harp won. I was very happy. I was really worried about the piano because it was there. And the other one was violin. Okay. And I don't need to tell you how violin can get. So anyway, she got into harping, and I was just kind of working with her on the sideline, helping out. But I think that moment that really caught my attention when it comes to the harp was when we committed to buying the first harp. So we were renting for a while. And when we finally decided we want to get our own harp, which is this one here standing behind me, I still remember that day when the lady from West Coast Harp delivered a harp to me. And she's in the island, but she'll make this trip to Seattle to pick up the dusty string harps and then take it across the border and send it to the customers near the border who have ordered them. I remember myself looking out the window going, when is the harp going to get here? And then I remember seeing a truck coming and someone pull out a big bag from the back. I'm like, this is it. This is the harp. And she took the harp into our living room, unpack it, and just start playing and just testing it. And I remember hearing the sound of the harp at that point going, this is what the instrument is capable of doing. I just couldn't get there, nor my daughter. And that was the point where I started wanting to kind of spend more time with the harp. And then, of course, when the pandemic hit, I find myself with even more time. And that's when I committed to learning the harp. So that's my harp story. I came to my life kind of indirectly, but directly.
Of course, yeah. And was the harp, before your daughter took that interest, before you went along to that recital, was the harp on your horizon at all? Had you heard it? Had you seen one live at all? Had you thought about it?
I've only really know the harp in that classical harp kind of context, because a lot of orchestra would use a pedal harp, as you know. And even though I've seen a lot of, ballet and opera and whatnot, I have never seen myself playing one of these big harp. It's just too much. It seems like too much for me. And it wasn't until my daughter started going to harp lesson and I saw a lever harp in the recital that I took my daughter to that I realized there's more than one kind of harp. And that was intriguing for me because I guess it's partly my own bias, but I always associate the pedal harp with more prestigious harpists, that are really serious about the playing. And it's a huge financial commitment. I didn't know that there are other options out there. So when I realized that, hey, there's actually more than pedal harp, I start looking into it more. And thankfully at that point, there's a lot of resource on YouTube. I can look up different music. There's quite a lot of music album, as you know, as well, recordings from different artists. So I didn't really know about the harp until I got into it when my daughters started exploring her instrument.
Amazing. So you decided that the harp was something for you. What route did you decide to take to help you learning? Did you see you looked at YouTube? Was that how you started? Did you go with a one-to-one teacher? How did you decide to develop your learning path?
So I occasionally teach at work. So I understand the limitation of learning something from a video, right? It's a very one-way transmission of information and there's no feedback. So even though online learning is getting more available at that point, I still want my daughter to take in-person lessons. And because of that, I thought it would also be a good idea for me to at least have some in-person lesson. So I did take 2 lessons with her teacher, Dr. Joye here, and that was really helpful. It gave me something to start, and it gives me an opportunity to ask, hey, does my hand looks correct? Am I positioning myself with the harp properly? But that also can only took me so far, right? Like I can only go so far with 2 lessons. So I did, when the pandemic hit, decide that I want to commit to regular lessons because I really want that opportunity for one-on-one feedback and development that I wouldn't get in like a group class or in a video lesson.
Oh, amazing. And how did that develop for you? That the one-to-one lessons online that you took, where did that take your harping? Did you find that was useful to get that feedback? Is there anything that stands out to you from that stage of your learning?
I definitely enjoyed the feedback. And as you know, because you in How to Harp membership, you have Power Hour for folks to ask you questions. So I don't need to convince you how important it is for
Absolutely
anyone
not.
to get that feedback. And also I found when I do a one-on-one lesson, it gives me a little bit more focus and, for lack of a better term, incentive to make sure I follow through with my homework, right? Because I have now a routine that I need to follow and meet my regular goals, if you will, because every week, hopefully, I'll be working towards something. And I think if you want to call it a summation of my one-on-one journey, because I'm not taking one-on-one lessons right now, but I did it for about 4 years, is I end up entering for a harp competition, and they happen to have an adult group. So I decided I wanted to enter it, not because I was asked by my parent to, demonstrate myself, but I want to prove to myself that, hey, my 4 years of learning has given me something that I can at least be proud of. So I want to enter in the competition, and I end up playing a piece that my harp teacher, George Lings, composed. And I had played that piece for actually quite some time. And what I found in my learning journey is you will start with a piece, you learn it, you thought you got it, you can put it down and go back to it. And there's always something more that you can do better. And of course, if I want to, I can probably continue to spend time with that same piece of music for, ever and ever and continue to improve on it. But I kind of hit a little bit of a ceiling when I got to the 4-year mark. I wanted something a little bit different than just one-on-one lesson. I actually got into a ensemble, an adult harp ensemble, and I realized how much I enjoyed the community aspect of learning harp. So that's kind of when I pivot into wanting to use the harp as a way to connect rather than just a personal, hey, let's be a better harpist kind of thing.
Of course. But you mentioned there that you decided to enter yourself into a competition. I think we're going to listen to some music that's related to this in a moment, right? But just linking back to what you said about your childhood experience of music, exams and competitions, which really put you off. And now you're entering a harp competition. So how did that feel? Did it bring back any of that kind of stress that you had before? Did you see different benefits now you're an adult? What's your views and opinions now of exams and competitions?
I think when I was little, exam and competition seems like an obligation, right? Hey, Victoria, you should take grade 1 exam. And when I'm done, it's like, hey, now let's go to grade 2 and 3. So it seems like a path that someone has put me on. And I wasn't quite sure what the benefit necessary it is for me, other than the fact that I'm going to make my parent happy. Whereas now, when I choose to sign up for an exam or even for the harp ensemble, I know I'm doing it for my own reason. And I think that gives me a sense of ownership and accountability that I didn't have before as a young child. And I think that is so important. I always to ask people, like, why do you want to learn the harp? You need to connect with your own why. And I know that I'm entering the exam not because I want to necessarily get a prize. Is I want to demonstrate that I can learn a piece of music and play it to the point that it's performable, because you have to do a one take video, or a lot of times when you go to competition, you only get one try. You don't get to repeat and repeat multiple times.
Yes.
So I want to experience that learning process of taking a piece of music from start to finish, arbitrary finish, but still a finish point nonetheless. So I enjoyed that experience rather than, hey, I physically fill in a form and enter to a competition. Yeah. That was,
of course, makes perfect sense. And we're going to listen to a little bit of your music, which is so lovely, that you have made some recordings, and people can listen to lots of your different recordings. You post them onto your personal YouTube page. So that's really lovely that you share that. Before we share the video, can you just tell us, is this the actual video you sent in for the competition?
This is. And actually, I have got into this habit, and thanks to one of the friends' suggestions, she said you should just record your music so you can look back and see your progress. So I have probably make multiple videos, probably not all of them are in my YouTube, but playing the same piece of music. So you'll notice there's a timestamp in there, and that was the date that I entered in the competition. And if you compare that to there was an earlier recording, hopefully you'll see a difference.
Hopefully. Okay, amazing. Right. So let's have a little listen to this piece, and then you can tell us what it is and also how you did in the competition. We'll just listen to a short snippet. Lovely. So tell us what the piece is. You already said it was written by Josh Lane, and why you chose it, and what happened with the competition.
So this piece is called Uncharted Shores, and if my memory serves me correctly, he finished it sort of at the onset of the pandemic, or very close to the beginning of lockdown. And that's when I started taking lessons with him. And I think one of the advantage of working with a living composer or arranger like yourself or Josh is you actually get the insight from the composer on the piece. So I actually get to spend quite a lot of time with him working on this piece. I think I started working on it soon after it came out, and you can see like 3 years later, I was still playing it. And what I have found is that, again, going back to that point of you can always make something better. I realize that there's so many little things in especially a longer piece of music that you can work on and focus on. And having been away from an instrument for so long, and also, again, being a kid, not realizing how do I properly learn an instrument, I'm kind of I was getting a little obsessed into like, how does one learn and practice? How do you make this thing good enough? What does good enough look like? So I would pull this piece back every so often, especially if I just needed to work on something that I'm already familiar with. I'm not learning something completely brand new, but still looking to improve of it. So this piece of music was that example of something that I kind of work on over a long period of time, and a little bit of an experiment for me, if you will, to figure out, okay, like, oh, I was able to play all the right note in the first time. Great. Now what can I do? How can I play with the dynamic? What am I doing with the little phrasing and all that? So at that point I said, I'm going to enter the competition because that was the piece that I feel most comfortable with. Also, I'm also acknowledging that it actually takes a lot of work to make something performance ready. So kudos to all the professionals who are playing on stage all the time. Like that process was a big revelation for me, how much work goes behind preparing a piece of music. And I entered this competition, and they have many different groupings. So I entered into the adult lever harp grouping. Didn't know how many people enter, so full transparency, it could just be me for all I know. But I did win first place from that piece. So it gave me at the end, I got a harp trophy out of it, which I thought it was so neat that someone had taken the time to print a harp-shaped trophy, and that now it's sitting on my shelf. So, yeah.
Amazing. That's definitely a moment to be proud of. But of course, I think that it's great. It's so lovely that you were able to come away with the first place in the competition. But I think that knowing you, that you would say that although that was a lovely thing to happen, it was actually the process of getting to that point of sending the video that was the real win, and everything that you learned through that process. Would I be right?
Yes, I still remember myself practicing that piece and trying to get a good enough take that I would personally accept it. I told Angela, who is also working with you and also with me on Talking Harps, I told her a couple of times, I am throwing my face onto the wall right now because I feel like I'm not getting it. And she keeps telling me, walk away for a while, come back, you'll have a new perspective. But yeah, the process was really helpful for me, and really, again, give me a lot of good takeaways in terms of what I need to pay attention to when I'm learning the harp, what are important for me, and how I can make something happen. Like, as you know, making things happen, it can be challenging sometimes.
Absolutely. And so if there's any other hobby harpists out there who are maybe, they just have a little thinking that, oh, maybe I could enter a competition, but they feel afraid and something's holding them back, what would your advice to them be? Would you encourage them to go with it? Or how can they take that step forward into that unknown?
So I think baby step is so important. And I'm going to give credit to your How to Harp membership, because you have this member concert opportunity twice a year. And you'll remember every time I show up, I say, I need that incentive to give myself the guts to play in front of other people and also practice a piece of music. So I think when I reflect back on sort of how did I go from I hate exam to like, hey, let's enter into a competition. It really is all the little baby steps. So if your goal is to enter into a competition or you want to play live, work backward and say, what are the little baby steps I can take to get towards that, right? So I think, looking back on all the little opportunities that I have had in terms of playing in the membership, in the concerts, or even in like a pod meeting and whatnot, all those add up. And I wouldn't be able to do that without those little steps. So break it down and take a little step, and you'll get there eventually.
Great advice. Great advice. Okay, let's talk about one of your exciting projects, because yes, you are a hobby harpist, but you have done some things which most other hobby harpists have not done. And that is you started Talking Harps. So, co-founded, I should say. You started along with friends, Talking Harps. So what happened to make you take this hobby and this thing that you were doing for fun? And I know you haven't started a professional career from it, but you have started something. So where was that born for? Why did you start Talking Harps? And what is it there to do?
So when I become a harp learner, I realized that there's actually a lot of music out there. So I remember going through that phase of asking the teacher, hey, what would you recommend me? And I didn't quite enjoy the music that was put forward. So I start searching, and I realized there's a lot of really great musicians out there writing harp music and waiting for people to discover, for a lack of better term. And also the curiosity in me, I'm always asking the question, how can I use what I am able to do to help amplify what other people are doing? Like, that is a question that I always like to ask myself, because if you haven't realized it yet, like, talking is like one of my favorite things to do. And people somehow enjoy listening to me to talk. So I thought, well, what if I create this space where we're able to showcase and amplify the work of professional so that people like myself and other harp learners can go and find resources and discover new artists, like what I was exactly doing, right? So that's where that idea of Talking Harps came through. And then also personally, like I think, on a little slightly selfish side, it gives me the opportunity to get to know some pretty amazing people out there, such as yourself. Like I was connected to you by one of your students in this RCS that you teach in, right? So without those opportunities to talk to professionals, I feel like I wouldn't know what else is out there, because there's such a vast network of professional harpists out there, again, doing great things, waiting for people to discover. So that's where Talking Harps came from.
Yeah. And for anyone who is listening to an audio version of this and not a visual version, you can find Talking Harps at talkingharps.com, or you can find them on YouTube, Talking Harps, and other social platforms as well, and have a look at the amazing work that they are doing to, as we say, share and amplify professional harpists around the world. So thank you so much for that work, Victoria. We all really appreciate it.
Oh,
now,
my pleasure.
You really, through Talking Harps and just through your own personality, you create community. And I'd love to know what difference has the harp made in your life? What community has it brought into your life? And what does that mean for you? Not as a harpist, but actually just as a person, as a human.
Yeah, so I was mentioning earlier that from my one-on-one lesson, I'm getting really good feedback on what I need to do personally. But after especially experiencing the harp ensemble, I'm realizing how much music is about connecting with others as it is for connecting with myself. And through working in Talking Harps, I also get to know a lot of the music cultures that are really surrounded by using music as a way to bring people together, right? I would say it's not very often that music is done on your own. It is definitely one way of doing it, but majority of the time, music is about bringing people together. And there's a lot of guests like Adriano that I've talked to that really use music as a way to bring people together. And it kind of got me thinking about, what would be community means for me and the benefit of having a community. And so when you started How to Harp and I became a part of that community, what I realized is that there are a lot of people like me out there that are adult harp learners. We just want to enjoy music. We don't need to, work our butts off in exams anymore, because that's not where we're after. But perhaps we're doing it because, we want to be able to play it for friends or our families, or we want to participate in like a sessions or a music group so that we can socialize with other people while we're doing it. So that's definitely something that resonated with me, being even though I'm a self-proclaimed introvert, I do enjoy my social time with people who are like-minded. And also, I recognize that there's a lot of wisdom out there too. People have been through the journey and they have a lot of good things to share about what their takeaways are and how we can do things better. And I feel like I'm not doing myself good service if I'm just getting all my information from one source. So there's a part of me that really want to diversify that source and get more information from different people, hear different perspectives, and get to learn about, how other people relate to music and how I might be able to do something or incorporate some of that into what I do with music.
Absolutely. And a lot of the time that learning, that kind of, bringing other opinions into your own musical sphere, if you like, it doesn't have to be from teachers, it doesn't have to be from professionals, right? And in fact, some of the most valuable things you learn is from people who are learning with you and learning around you, and you're growing and learning together. What are your thoughts on that?
I absolutely agree with you on that. I think some of my best moments with Angela, and both of us kind of got into harp lesson around the same time, is when we brainstorm with each other or troubleshoot with each other on what we call like the learner's problem. Like, I'm not feeling motivated this week to practice this scale. Like, what should I do? Do I just walk away, grab a cookie, or right? So I think it's good to have that sounding board, someone that you can relate to, who understand what you're going through, to talk out loud with you. I value that a lot. And I think, again, this is why for me now, majority of my learning occurs in how to harp. Not necessarily because I need your help to help me read sheet music. Like, I'm past that now, thankfully. But the community aspect of it, I found that being a really big driver to keep me continue to engage with the harp. Because I kind of came to the conclusion that, I've learned enough to the point where I can have the skills to play the music that I want to play, which is a really freeing thing to be able to say, right? It doesn't mean I'm going to stop learning, because there's still more, but I need a different setting now to support the learner that I am. And I'm finding that being able to connect with other harpists, and, even in the live sessions that you host where other members come and I'm hearing their question, I'm like, you know what? I have the same problem. I never thought to ask that question. I'm glad someone asked it, because now I can get the answers. So that's really wonderful.
Yeah. And just for our listeners to understand the context of what Victoria is talking about, and also if there's any harpist out there who's listening and thinking, oh, it's all very well to think about community and playing with others, but there's no harpists around me for 100 miles. Victoria's in Canada, Angela is in London, and I am in Scotland, in Stirling in Scotland. And we've all become very good friends, very close friends, through community. And community absolutely can be born and grown online. And so you don't have to be next door neighbours in order to share community with people. There's plenty of ways to do it. And with that in mind, I think we're going to move to our next piece of music, because this is a piece of music which we had the pleasure of playing together in real time, because I was lucky that you and Angela visited Scotland. But we only had a day together, right? So it was prepared online. So let's listen to our little trio, and then we can hear your preparation time for this, and also what it meant to you for us to come together, because I know it meant a lot to me. But let's have a little listen first. So this is Rí Oneonone, which is a Scottish Gaelic Perst, which means the girl with the brown hair. 1, 2, 3, 4. Fun. It brings back such lovely memories for me watching that back.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I think this is a really good example of that connection that you can have with other people, and just that sheer joy of sharing music together. Like, you can't replace that with other things easily.
Yeah. So how did you prepare for that? We weren't meeting regularly in order to prep that, in 3D. How did you get ready for us to be able to play that together the moment that we met?
Yeah. So thanks to the ensemble experience, I've kind of picked up some tips on how you can prepare for your ensemble. So understanding the speed, so we can all kind of practice around that same tempo, is very important. I think we also, when we meet up, there was opportunities, for example, for me and Angela to do a little practice together. So even though we don't have the full group we try to use little opportunities to practice it. And again, I think when we look at the ensemble music, something that I really appreciate that you do Christmas harp collaboration, I need to segue into there because that was also another avenue that I've kind of learned how to do ensemble, is if you're able to listen to the full piece in its entirety with all the parts, it can help you kind of see how your part relates to others. So I definitely look at the sheet music as a whole and ask myself, what does that sound like as a piece? So I'm not just focusing on my little narrow lane. Sometimes the note might not make sense in relation to the whole piece if you just look at it individually. So those are some of the things I pay attention to. Definitely try to take advantage of that in-person opportunity when we did end up in Scotland and have two harps. We try to play it as much as we can ahead of playing with you because we don't want to make you look bad. It's like, who is this? Who are these two people that Heather is playing with? And they have no idea what they're doing.
Not at all. Not at all. And you were on the amazing canopy.
It is a beautiful, beautiful harp. Big shout out to Carmack for making such a beautiful harp.
Absolutely. And talking about pedal harps and lever harps, you actually play both. But maybe you'd like to talk a little bit about, you know, the difference between the two harps for you and how you approach the two different harps.
Yeah, so when I talked to Sam McAdams, one of your students, she also played both harp, and I think it was her who told me that they're like two different instruments, and I could not agree with her more on that, right? As you know, in the pedal harp, you're working the pedal with your feet while trying to keep your eye on the string. So you don't want to look down. Apparently, that is not good form when you're a pedal harpist looking down all the time. So you really have to understand how to work your feet without looking at it. And I am a pretty small person, so the pedal harp I have is pretty big. So I find myself sometimes having to reach that A pedal really far away from me with a lot of struggles. So that was very interesting. I never expect that the things are going to be spread out so far, but I mean, it makes sense when you look at how physically big the pedal harp is. It makes sense. And whereas the lever harp, especially if you're playing one that has full set of lever, rather than working your feet and your hands, you're using your hand constantly, either playing and or switching your levers. So it does feel like two very separate instruments to me. And I do find the pedal harp, again, because I'm so big, I think my pedal harp is probably too big for my size. And I think there are like the one that I play at your place here. What's the beautiful name you gave your pedal harp? Tell our audience.
Flo.
There you go. You're going to have to one day do a podcast episode to explain the naming of your harp to your audience. But Flo fits me a little bit better because I think Carmack harp tends to be constructed a little bit differently than the Lion Haley harps. So I do find myself gravitate towards my lever harp more for that reason. But I definitely appreciate having a pedal harp and experiencing sort of doing the footwork on the pedal harp as opposed to the lever work on a lever harp, because my teacher is not afraid of lever changes. So I got changing lever pretty early on in my learning, which I consider it one of the biggest blessing, because I mean, if I'm going to pay for these levers, I might as well flip them, shouldn't I?
You got to use them, right? You got to use them. They're beautiful. And so the last piece of music that you've chosen to share with us, it is based around the lever changes, right? You've chosen it because it's something that it's got lots of lever changes, and that was exciting. So can you tell us a little bit about the piece before we hear the final one?
Yes, of course. So it is a Eric Satie piece. Now, I'm not going to try to pronounce the name, or if I'm going to try it, don't hold me accountable for not saying it correctly. I believe it's called Inosian No. 1. And it's a it was a piece written for the piano, right? So there's a lot of sort of chromaticism in it. And there's this wonderful harpist, Bashan and the Harp. He transcribed it for the lever harp. And I was really drawn to the enigmatic kind of quality of Satie's music. And I thought it would be a really good challenge for me to play something that has a lot of lever change, And there's also a lot of bass notes. So I find myself trying to tackle a lot of things. Like, how do I clean the bass clear? How do I change all the livers? So it was a really interesting project from that perspective, to be able to sort of learn those techniques through working through this piece of music. And I think, again, in my YouTube, you'll find I have 2 versions of this. There was an early version and a later version. I think in this version, I finally got a slightly better handle on the bass line, how to make it clean. So for those who are contemplating learning the harp and you wonder what one of the big challenge you might have to face, especially if you have a full-size harp, taming your bass is a thing. Just want to point out that. But yeah, so this piece is an opportunity for me to learn how to tame my bass and also exercise my lever changes.
Amazing. Lovely playing. Well done. It's so beautiful to hear lots of your music shared with us. And remember, everyone, if you are interested in hearing these earlier versions and being inspired by Victoria's playing, you can pop over to her YouTube channel where she shares music in progress, music that's finished, music for competitions, and everything in between. Now, I'd like to ask you, Victoria, I'd like you to just go back to your childhood for one last time for me and tell us about what kind of music was playing when you were younger. What were you listening to before you were hitting play yourself on the CD player? Maybe it was CD player. It was when I was younger. So what were your parents playing?
Cassette tapes.
Yeah, well, exactly. Records. Well, records are common now, actually. But yeah, what were your parents playing? And then what were you choosing to play when you actually had the choice of hitting play yourself?
Yeah, I think there was a lot of classical music. I think that was, an easy choice for a lot of people to get into, right? A lot of the Beethovens and Bach and all that. I think classical music has always been a big favorite of my mother. My dad is less into sort of the I call him the older music. So he's more of a pop song, more so contemporary kind of person. So I kind of get the spectrum. And in my piano journey, a lot of the pieces I played are classical music. And I think a lot of the exam curriculums back then really focus on classical pieces. So that's the kind of music that I played on the piano. But I'm always interested in the contemporary music. So Studio Ghibli, so for those who don't know, My Neighbor Totoro, and Kiki's Delivery Service, so the Japanese animation house, in their movies were really prominent in Hong Kong, where I grew up. And they have this amazing composer. First name is Joe. Sorry if I forgot his last name. He wrote a lot of music that actually got played by a lot of people these days because the movies got adapted for English audience in recent years. So I listened to a lot of those music and I really wanted to play it. But I remember my my piano teacher said, well, you need to work on your exam pieces, so we don't really have time to work on fun things. And that broke my heart. I'm like, I want to play the fun things. What do you mean I can only do exam pieces? So I still have those books and I still rip them out and like try to play it on my harp these days. So I think I remember myself telling my teacher when I first started my lesson and said, I don't want classical music. I'm done with classical music. Give me something different. Well, I got a Celtic harp. Maybe I should play Celtic music. And then I got into some, I think, I I'm not going to name this arranger, but there are some people with really big hands and I just cannot play their arrangement very well. And I'm like, oh crap, now I cannot play Celtic music. What's going on? And again, that's when I discovered there are other arrangers that would arrange music differently that is more suited for my hands. So yeah, so I think I pick up on the contemporary music sort of from my father and also the movies and whatnot that I watch. But then I also nowadays also work on classical music. So I'm not taking regular lesson, but Amelia Romano, she's one of my Talking Harp guests, and we become really good friends. And she insists that I need to spend some serious harp time at least every so often because she worry that I'm going to fall off the rails. Fair enough. Like, it's good to have an accountability buddy. And she plays a lot of classical music and also Josh as well, right? So I kind of make a point to go, you know what? Like, yes, I will still spend some time playing classical music, if nothing else, for the technique. Like, I don't need to, spend a lot of time with it, but it's still good for me. So I try to balance it a little bit instead of doing I'm not doing this anymore approach.
No, of course. Amazing. And you've mentioned it a couple of times. We are absolutely delighted that you're a member of the How to Harp membership. We're so privileged to have you in there working with us. Would love you to tell us what is your favourite part of the How to Harp membership.
There's quite a lot, but I think in my current state of learning, there's a couple things that stood out for me. The concert is always a big hit for me. So for the audience who would like some context, Heather bring guest tutors and guest performers to the membership to do workshops and give concerts. I love the concerts because it's a way for me to expand my music horizon, right? I always tell people I only know what I know. And if you don't show me something else is there, I wouldn't realize that it's even there. So the concert is a wonderful way for me to explore music that I have yet to discover. So that's really stood out for me. I love the power hour. I know I haven't actually asked a question. Maybe I've asked one question so far, but I love hearing what questions other people are asking. And every time I go to one of these sessions, even though I'm not the one asking question, I'm always learning something. I will usually have at least minimum one good takeaway from each session. So I really enjoy that. And not to mention, like, I'm a big supporter of getting personal feedback. So I feel like that is a brilliant time. I also just for my again for the audience who need context, Heather always and now Angela always arrange or write a piece of music and put it in 3 difficulty levels, right? So you will have your beginner, intermediate, and advanced. You have no idea how much fun I have, like, perusing the 3 difficulty levels and try to, understand, hey, like, what's the difference between this and this? How do you make this more complex? And like, I just love having that opportunity to kind of see how musician brain work and how I can perhaps take some of those and incorporate into my own arrangement, because I started dabbling in arranging as well. So like, it's not really it's not like you have a session to go through all 3 levels with us and talk about the differences, but I definitely look at those sheet musics and ask myself some of those questions. It's a fun little activity that I do every so often.
I don't think you're the only one. We get a lot of comments from people saying,
right?
And they'll make their own arrangement just by, like, I talk about a Frankenstein arrangement, right? So a little bit from the beginner, a bit from the intermediate, or I really like that harmonic in the advanced. I'll put that in.
That is so fun.
Yeah, it's great. It's great. It's really, really lovely. Okay, so to finish up our conversation, it's been so fun chatting to you, but I'd love for you to round our session up by telling us just one piece of advice, one tip that you would give other harp learners out there, a piece of encouragement or a tip from your wisdom, your years of wisdom as a harp learner.
Well, it's hard to pick one thing, but I would say just do it. Like, take baby step and just do it. If you ever have doubt that if you can do it or not, I always tell people you'll only find out if you do it. But break it down into smaller step. And again, that's another thing in the membership, right? You can work with a buddy or your pots to kind of track your progress and help you break down your goals and all that, right? So if you want to do it, you can do it. You just need to take baby steps. So just get going.
Amazing. Thank you so much for joining us, Victoria.
A pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for joining us for this lovely chat with Victoria Johnson. I hope her story has inspired you to keep exploring on your own harp journey, no matter where you are or why you play. If you enjoyed this episode, please be sure to follow or subscribe to the podcast and share it with a harp friend who might just love it too. Next week, I'll be flying solo with a little harp tip that you can take straight to your harp bench. It's something that I use all the time in my own playing and teaching, and I can't wait to share it with you all. Until then, keep playing, keep questioning, keep growing, and of course, above all else, happy harping.